Real talk about real life. Spiritual maturity. Faith. Leadership. Growth. Welcome to Life Beyond Sunday podcast.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Life Beyond Sunday podcast. And welcome, Shayla, TJ. I didn't get corrected on that intro.
Well,
so
I have
think
something I'm thinking, but...
Oh. My hair is probably in the wrong position or something. Okay, anyways. Good morning. So we've been talking...
That's actually what I was going to talk about. What if it's not morning for somebody?
Well, they should be watching as soon as it comes out Monday morning, just to help enthusiasm.
Okay.
So,
all right. Makes sense.
Get it going. Yeah. So I'm trying to force them. So we've been talking a little bit about relationships in this series. And today we're going to talk about friendship. Mm-hmm. And so Oxford Dictionary's definition of friend is a person with whom one has developed a close and informal relationship of mutual trust and intimacy. So we're going to work off that definition, friends, not acquaintances, right?
Yeah.
And so we live in a super connected society, but also people express feeling more lonely, more depressed than ever before, right? Statistically speaking. Mm-hmm. So we're just a push of a button away from anybody, no matter how far they are, but people feel lonely. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to kind of explore the concept of friendships, what that looks like, boundaries, et cetera, et cetera. But first, we are going to start. If you could pick someone well-known or a Bible character to be in your close friend circle, who would it be? And if you picked a Bible character that you're like, I don't want this person in my friend circle, who would it be?
I don't think I would want Jonah.
Because of the whale?
I don't think I would want Job.
Yeah,
I was going to say Job. He's whiny. I mean, the man went through a lot. I'm here for it, but
if I had to pick somebody, I would probably pick Peter, because I think Peter would be a blast.
He's mine too.
Cutting off people's ears, just do.
He's an emotional character.
Yeah, he is just an emotional, reactionary kind of guy.
If nothing else, he'd be fun.
There's other people I'd be like, oh, Paul would be great, but I think I'd want to punch Paul in the face.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick Paul.
I wouldn't pick Paul. Peter was mine because I just feel like he would be like, you'd be like, I would want to hang out with this guy because you don't know what he's bringing to the table that day.
You know who I'd want? Barnabas, because he was just an encourager.
Yeah.
Just believed in people.
I don't know if I know enough about Barnabas to make that decision.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want John the Baptist.
No, he's weird.
You're weird. I'm sure you were sent by the Lord, and I'm thankful for you. But you're eating locusts and stuff. I'm not about that.
I really like James. He likes me. Likes me. Let's throat punch people.
Right.
James, come on, let's go.
Let's go. Him and Shayla together in a room, people would leave crying.
Jeez. That's why I don't have any friends.
Neither did James.
He was my friend.
And anyone you would be like, you said Jonah, right? You dodged Jonah. You'd be like, no, Jonah. Okay,
yeah.
I'll take it. All right. So, do you believe, you say this a lot, so you're the average of the 5 people who are closest to you. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you practically pick those friendships and how do you develop them? So
I think some of them, I think some friendships, this is the problem we have in today. We think friendships are for forever, and I think there are forever friends, but I think a lot of times there's people that are in your life for seasons.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean forever. But how do you pick those people? Man, I think that it's a mutual picking, I think, more than you just go, Kelly, we're going to be friends.
Right.
Which we're not.
No. But I will say that I will, I can intentionally seek people out.
You can.
Based on And there's different types of relationships, but based on some qualities that I'm like, first you have to like the person, right? You got to mesh.
Yes.
So there's got to be a mesh.
Yeah.
If you're work for me, I'm not interested.
Yes.
Like if I have to keep trying to figure out conversation, no.
Mm-hmm.
But there isn't if you mesh with the person, you can intentionally seek that relationship out. So what are some do I just look for people I like, or when I'm talking about the average of the 5 people closest to me, what are some characteristics that I should be looking for besides
I
the
think
fact
they have
that
to have similar values, right? Like
There's got to be some
if I'm going to
commonality.
be, if the statistics say I'm going to be like these people, I would hope they have some shared values that I have. What else?
I mean, a lot of my closest friends are based around common interests. Like some of my best friends love golf. So we have some commonality. There's other aspects to our relationship, but it began with something that we enjoyed doing and we could do it together.
And do you think it's why do you think it's challenging now? Why do you think people feel so alone now?
Because we have the illusion of being in somebody's life because of social media. So we're seeing the things that they're doing because they're posting their highlight reels, but we don't really have the intimacy of doing those things with them.
And do you think friendship is important to have? Do you think it's a necessary relationship?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think that I think friendship is very hard. True friendship. Like there's a lot of intention that goes into it. There's a lot of effort that goes into it. And unfortunately today, most people want other people to put in the effort without them putting in the effort. I want them to call me. I want them to pursue me. I want them. And I just found that if sometimes you got to go first.
I think also when I think about friendship, and maybe it's not centered around that definition that you gave early on in the podcast, but like, I think sometimes we look at people and think they have to be like this all-encompassing type friend. Like I have to enjoy all of these different things. They have to have all these commonalities. But I think in my life, like I have different friends for different things. Like some of my friends are very spiritually mature, right? And I can go to that person with things that I'm struggling with spiritually because we have that shared, commonality. We're on the same wavelength kind of spiritually, so I can go deep with them in that area. Some of my other friends, they're just fun to be. I can go and I can laugh and I don't have to have these in-depth conversations, but I'm going to go and that's going to fill a piece of me, and I enjoy and I appreciate them being that type of a friend. Other people I can go on vacation with, and they're easy to travel with, and they're easy to just be around. And so I think I don't look at people in my life and go, you have to have all of these things in order to be my friend. I have to be able to bare my soul with you. I have to have fun with you. I have to do all of these things. I have different people for different things, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And different seasons.
And I value them equally.
Yeah.
But do you think it's important to have those relationships where you can be very intimate, but they're not like your spouse or your family member, they're just a friend? Do you think that that's like important?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that all of us have different capacities on how many that could be. They say that if you have 3 really close friends, like you're crushing it in life. I make the statement, the 5 people that you're closest to, but I mean, the reality is if you have 3 really, really close friendships, where you can bare your soul, you're winning in life.
Yeah. And
Some
that's
people-
even kind of rare.
And that's rare. I mean, and some people can handle more than that, but I mean,
I couldn't.
yeah.
She's like, I
Sorry.
barely can handle one people. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Y'all are emotionally draining. Do you think it's, how do you become vulnerable? Okay, so I have a bit of a protective instinct, right? So a lot of times I have a hard time letting people in. And so how do you decide when to let people in? And like, at what point are you like, how do you become vulnerable?
I think vulnerability happens over time.
Yeah.
They've built trust
Yep.
enough to where as you let them in, like that doesn't go beyond that conversation. They care about your soul. They love you unconditionally. They want what's best for your life. And so I think that over time you see those things play out, and you open yourself up more, and you become more and more vulnerable, trusting that vulnerability isn't going to be used against you. And that's hard because I think every single one of us at some point has had a relationship where they've turned and they've used that, and that makes you want to be like, well, I guess there's things that I can't share with people, and I can't do this. And No, there are. You just happen to be in a relationship with somebody that wasn't that trustworthy. But there are people that are like that. I mean, I always go back to the moment we are losing Alexander, and I was losing it. I texted 4 guys, and like those 4 guys loved me and cared for. Like, I was going through the worst moment of my life, and they were all there, willing to do whatever.
Well, and I think having those types of relationships, like I have a couple people in my life. It doesn't matter if I've talked to them once a month or once a year. If I'm walking through something, they're going to be there in a moment, and I can bear every bit of, like, those are sometimes the friends that I appreciate the most, the ones that I don't have to, like, be in constant communication with or feel like I'm going to fail them or let them down, or they're going to be mad if I didn't text them right away or whatever. But I know they're going to be there for me in the really difficult seasons of life.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you think men and women can be friends?
Yes. Because our relationship started out as a friendship.
Yeah, I think if you're
Like,
married,
Started out was a key word there.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Right. If you're married, I think you have to be careful, you know, the depth of the relationship that you're sharing with the opposite sex, you know, like I think you have to be really careful about that. And there has to be communication with you and your husband. Like, how are you feeling about this relationship? You know, we have a lot of friends that were couples that we're friends with, you know, so I'm friends with the guy too, but it's not like I'm just going to hang out with the guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I would be like, no on that.
I think if you're single, yes. If you're married, it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah. And how do you like, okay, so Jesus, he had his 12, right? But he also had, dinner.
And remember, one of those 12
Betrayed
stabbed
him
in the back.
Yeah.
Yes. So he had 11.
And then the other ones
Denied him.
denied him.
Peter.
Peter, the guy you
So,
like.
Peter, the one we want to be friends with, he would have left us. He would have
Yeah, like John was kind of the only one that stuck around.
Yeah, but he was a little bit of a crybaby. John
Well,
was
that's because
whiny.
John was like the youngest disciple.
Oh, was he? That
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense because
They
he was a little.
they think that he was probably 13 to 15 years old.
That makes a lot of sense. Like a pubescent teenager, he's like doesn't know how he's feeling that day. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I forgot where I was going with my question. Oh, so Jesus had his people, but he also hung out with tax collectors and and not just hung out, like had dinner at their homes.
Yeah.
And the woman at the well, and so he hung out with these people that were questionable. How do you decide, like, oh, I'm allowed to have this person in my life, but they're not in my circle? Or how do I taper that? Like,
Well, they're not speaking into my life. I'm probably speaking into theirs.
Yeah.
Like, I might be their friend, but I don't consider them a friend, if that makes sense.
Well, I would also say they weren't his primary; they were
Right.
secondary.
Right.
So that makes a big difference. Like, there's a lot of secondary people in my life. I love them. I care about them. I want to help them. But they're not people I'm going to.
They're not adding value to you.
Yeah, they're not. I'm not going to them for advice.
Right.
Jesus wasn't going to them for anything that he needed.
Right.
He wasn't asking them to do things for him. I know those were his primary group that he did that with.
Yeah. And do you think that there are signs of a toxic relation, like a toxic friendship, where you're like, man, this is not like healthy?
I think there's probably lots of signs of toxic.
Or do you want to share these signs of what you might be like, this is a red flag, or like a...
I mean, I think,
Loose lips,
yeah,
sink
I was
ships.
going to say gossip.
So if they'll talk about other people around me, they'll probably
Yep.
talk about me when I'm
Yep.
not around them.
Yep.
So that
Was going to be one of the indicators I was going to say in how I choose a friend. I listen to how they talk about other people. And then I'm going, okay, like, is that how you're going to talk about me when I'm not here? So can I really trust you?
And are they big talkers?
Right.
Like if you're
Hey,
if
I
you
just
have to be
lost every
talking-
friend on... No, I'm kidding.
No, if you have to be talking all
Big
the
talker.
time, like that's I don't.
what if you just like to communicate, TJ? And no, I'm kidding.
I'm
totally joking. Let's
It's
not go down that
insecurity.
road.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
insecurity.
For me, it's a. If you're talking all the time, are you not going to be cognizant and just something
Listen.
that I shared, just because you feel like I have to fill voids, share something that I shared in confidence in public because of your insecurity?
Is that why you're okay with awkward silence, Shayla?
Is it awkward now?
No, I'm fine with it. I'm okay. Are there any other signs? Gossip, too much talking, like feeling the need to fill a space.
I think sometimes needy people it can be toxic because you can just never do enough. And it's like, this friendship is exhausting,
Yeah.
you know?
Or if you're looking for a friend to fill like every void in your life, right?
Codependence.
Codependency,
Yeah.
bad.
Okay. That goes back to like friendships between men and women. I think that there's degrees, right? If you're bearing your soul to the opposite sex, unless you're single and you're trying to be something different, right? I
Right.
think the friendships you guys were describing as couples or people, your guy friends are probably not the ones that you call crying,
No.
right?
No.
Not that you cry because you're tough, but I'm just saying. I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh.
All right. What do you think it's possible to have friends in the workplace, and is that healthy? And I would even take it a step further. If you're a boss or a manager, do you think it's healthy to have friendships that are, I'm going to use this word, but like below you, not in significance or value, but like in rank in a workplace? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you can have friendships with those people, and I hope that you do. I mean,
I think somebody told me this one time, like, I'm supposed to be authentically me all the time. Like, I can be authentic with everyone, but my level of transparency might be different. Like, I can still authentically have a friend that is my coworker or somebody that is, underneath my leadership. I might not have the same level of transparency with that person. Like, I might be facing something at work and I'm not going to share that, with the person who works for me. But I still can be like, man, I'm just walking through some tough stuff. Will you be praying for me? Will you, whatever. Like, I remember working at another organization, and there was lots of guys on the same team that I was with. And all of us, like, as a group, we would go out for Taco Tuesday or whatever. We had a good time. We would joke around with each other. Like, it was a fun environment. And I think you can do that. You don't have to be like I have to be hyper vigilant necessarily on all of these things. You can still have relationship and have friendship with people. Your level of transparency might be different, if that makes sense.
yeah.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think about, some of the people here on our staff, like Josh is a ride or die for me. Like I there's very few people I trust more in this world than Josh Mitchell.
Yeah.
And he's actually a couple of layers down in our organization, technically, from me at this point. But like, super close friendship. Like, I love him like a brother. I think about Vicky Berkheimer, like, trust her immensely. Like carries so much weight and just bears so many burdens of mine. And I'm like, I love her, and I trust her. Like, she probably knows more about me than than a lot of people. And I'm like, man, there's some of these people that I love immensely and care deeply for and trust with my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you,
that are technically subordinates.
and do you find it challenging managing them when you have that level of affection?
I think because they know, like, I love them so much. I don't know that that's ever necessarily been a problem. We've been able to have difficult conversations. I mean, Shayla's been in a lot of those. I mean, Josh will tell you when he first started, we had a knockdown, drag out. We just learned each other. That was part of the beauty of it. We just learned each other, and we learned how to communicate, and
Well,
we
I
learned how to
think
have
it's-
friendship, and learned how to work together, and we learned what's appropriate at work and how can we be outside of work. Because there is that's what you have to understand. In this environment, I have to be your boss, but outside of that, man, we can be friends. Like, we're equal as men.
Right.
But in this environment, there is an authority.
Right.
Well, and I think it's important in any friendship. Like, there's two sides of it, right? There's the other person and there's you. And I have to be able to filter through the things that you're saying or doing, especially in some of those types of relationships, and know the depth of your heart and who you are. And so I think on both sides of friends, it's looking at that person and going, I'm going to see the best in you. I'm going to filter through this in the right way. I'm going to love you the right way, and not put on any kind of like, can't believe he would do that. No, I know you.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to filter that correctly.
And how do you decide who can speak into your life? How do you decide if you listen to that voice? So there are people in my life, right? And they'll come to me and maybe correct. Or how do you decide who's allowed that space?
For me, it's been, I've given them permission in those
Right.
spaces.
Yep.
You know, they've lived a life and been in a relationship.
modeled something.
That they've modeled something. I've gone, hey, I want to give you permission to speak into my life.
Yep.
And I think that is a permission thing. So, I mean, there's lots of people that have opinions, but I don't care. Like, I want to know the life you've lived. I want you to know me. And when there's that trust there, it's easy to give them that permission. That if they see something, if they're like, man, you're off, they have permission to come and have those conversations.
Do you agree with that? Does that permission actually happen? Like, hey, Shayla, I now give you permission. No, right? Is that like, how does that? Because you get a lot of feedback, right? You get a lot of emails, you get a lot of opinions. How do you?
But those things don't matter to me because they don't have that voice in my life.
But when a person who does have that voice, then you take that into.
Oh yeah, I mean, if Randy Bizette was like, hey TJ, you're messing up here, like, I'd be like, oh, I would take that, or be like, ooh, I think you're off. I would take that.
Well, and I think no matter what, too, I think there's people that desire friendship or want friendship, but for the wrong reasons. And I think some of that you have to be able to filter through whoever you are, of going, you know, is this a person that I believe has the right motivations, that I can spend time with, that I trust? And I think it's, again, built over time. I don't think it's just like automatically, okay, I met Kelly and we're friends. No, like, we might hang out a little more because I'm like, I want to get to know Kelly a little bit and see, you know, I do love you. But there's just like any kind of relationship that's a dating relationship too, right? Like, you're spending time, you're going, do I see things in this person that makes me want to be a little bit more vulnerable and transparent? But you're not just going to know that from one time. I might have a connection with that person and be like, oh man, there's something about this person. It's easy, it's whatever. But that relationship grows over time, and you begin to see their true colors. You begin to see those things, and you start to bear more or go, not what I kind of thought it was, you know?
And do you think?
And I think, like, probably my best friend, or close to be like my best friend, like, came out of, we'd worked together on a staff. We weren't really friends on a staff when we were on the same staff together. We ended up going and planting churches. It came during a season where we both had shared kind of tragedy, and we started sharing with each other what was going on in our lives. And all of a sudden we were like, man, I didn't really necessarily like you a lot before, but like, all of a sudden there was a connection there that wasn't there years prior. And now we've become best friends. So I think some of those things develop over time. Some of those things, then there's other people I'm like, man, I want to be your friend and I want to like you. I just don't. There are pastors I'm like, man, I would love to be friends with this guy, and I meet them and I'm just like, I have nothing in common with you. Like, I think, like, from the outside, you just see, like, we seem like we would be boys, and
And we can't
really-
sustain a
there's-
conversation with 2
can't do a
minutes.
conversation for 5 minutes. This isn't going to work. And that's okay.
Yeah. What do you guys feel like you get a lot of, y'all are pastors? There's, I don't know how many people are coming here on a weekend, 3,000.
Something like that.
Yeah. You know, people are trying to get close to y'all, right?
Yeah.
How do you like decipher? Is this like a genuine, like, you know, is this like a genuine interaction to invest in? Is it just time, or do you
Some
feel
of it's
prompted
time
by
and
the Holy
discernment.
Spirit?
And,
Yeah.
You know,
Is that hard? Is that challenging to not know motives?
I don't think necessarily, because honestly, for the most part, I'm going to be people's friend, but they're not my friend. Like, I don't know any other way to say it. I'm always going to be friendly. I'll always be there. I'll talk to you if you're going through something. But like, are you my friend? I only have a few of those. You know, like.
I would say this, like, again, we're friendly to everyone, but there's people I deeply love.
Yeah.
That, like,
We're the anomaly. We're not the like.
yeah, our circles are small.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are.
It's a little bit different of a dynamic when you're a pastor and leader, I think, than other people in life, maybe.
Yeah, I think that there's a, you know, if it's like almost like concentric circles going out, there's different layers all to it. And I think that, you know, you can move through those layers, but that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Most of our close relationships have been years and years and years in the making.
And how do you develop healthy boundaries in a friendship?
I mean, I think first of all, you got to define what your boundaries are.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, are there, so I'll give an example.
Okay,
I
good.
allow people to ask, like, oh, how are things how are things in your marriage? There's a very select, like, how is your, but I won't allow anybody to speak ill of my husband. That's a boundary. Like, oh, Mauricio should be doing that. No, I don't know. Like, the same way I won't sit in a circle and be like, oh, you know, like, you know, I won't. So that's a boundary for me. Like, that's an area that I don't let anybody like go like that touch. Another boundary that I'm very selective on is how I parent. I don't know that I'm the most modern type of parent. Like, I don't know that I've adopted all of the new things that are out there. It doesn't mean I don't listen and learn, but like, I'm selective about, like, you know, okay, this is not an area that I, not because I think I do it all right, but because there's a lot of things that we do today that I'm not necessarily on board with. So there's some specifically around my family that I'm like, this area we don't, you know.
I think it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning of the podcast, is you have to define your values, like know what your values are as a person. And does that person line up with those values? But if you don't have any values, then kind of anything goes, and you're gonna have any conversation and you're gonna do it. So I think it's more about defining your personal values and what means a lot to you, and then allowing the people that share those
values. You know, and if they don't share those values, then that becomes a boundary for them.
Right.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
And to finalize, because I think Sheila's going to cut me off on time. If you had to say something to somebody like, hey, here's 2 things I would do immediately. If they're feeling alone, they're like, you know what, I have 700 people on Instagram, but I haven't been able to find healthy relationships. I haven't been able to connect with people.
Yep.
What are 2 things that you would say, like, look, you can do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
And well, it'll help.
We'll probably
you.
say the same thing.
You wanna
Say it
go
at the
first?
same time.
Well,
If you want to have a friend,
gotta
you
be
have
a
to be a friend.
That's the first, like, go first. I mean, that's the whole idea of, I actually was talking to one of my childhood best friends. I mean, Shayla and I actually grew up with this guy. His name's Chris Hart. He's one of the most successful business coaches in the country. I mean, coaching billionaires, selling, I mean, just unbelievable. And he talks about this all the time. He's like, if people wanted friends, if they would just go first, they would find that they have so many friends.
Yep.
But everybody is waiting on somebody else.
Yep.
And if they would just go, you know what, I'm just going to be the one that's going to make the phone call. I'm just going to be the one that's going to reach out and make the invitation. I'm going to be the one that's going to plan the day and invite people to it. You'd be amazed at how many relationships you would have.
God showed me this a long time. Your need is your seed. Like the thing that you are saying, I need this, I want this. Maybe God's given that to you, that need, as a seed you're supposed to plant, because other people probably need that too. And so if you're needing it, somebody else probably needs it. So why don't you just start using that as seed and see what God brings from that? Mm-hmm. So I think you, just like TJ said, you have to go first.
Yeah. And then I would say get into a connect group.
Yeah.
Start serving on a team, something where you're around people that have similar values.
Yeah.
Yep. Those are good. All right. Any final thoughts? We good?
I think we're good.
All right. Thank you guys, and we will see you all next week.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Life Beyond Sunday this week. If you wouldn't mind taking a second to subscribe, like, comment in the section below, and I can't wait to see you next week.